Welcome to Region 3's Respondent Training. This program was developed in partnership with Missy Thibodeaux-Thompson, our Region 3 Chair, Kelli Crump, our Region 3 Red Chair, and me. My name is Miranda Hawk, and I am the Region 3 Vice Chair. We're glad you're here. Let's first talk about the respondent in context with the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival experience. The response is the heart of the festival. It's an opportunity to meet the next generation of theater artists. We get to engage students in conversations about their process and their work. We get to reflect on the effectiveness of the theatrical experience they created. And most importantly, we get to celebrate their efforts, the efforts of the students, as well as our colleagues. It's important to understand that everything we do in Region 3 is a commitment to representation, equity, and diversity. How does this involve responding to productions? We are there to celebrate the individual while we are honoring the multitude of perspectives that invigorate the creative process. We serve as allies for underrepresented groups, and we respond within a framework of justice and equity. Most importantly, we respond with cultural humility and competence. So who is a respondent? Well, there's lots of answers to that question. A respondent can be a faculty member at a given college or university, full or part-time. A respondent can also be a professional theater artist. It can also be someone who is inspired by the commitment to the mission of KCACTF. What is that mission? To encourage, recognize, and celebrate the finest and most diverse work produced in university and college theater programs. It is important that the respondent has gone through this respondent training, as well as our anti-bias training that you'll find on our Region 3 website. So what is the purpose of a response? A respondent is there to respond to the work, to give another voice to the process. It's an extension of teaching. It's an opportunity for the students to hear probably stuff that they've heard before. Respondents are there to get a conversation started, to inspire students to articulate their process, to put into words the work that they have put on stage. Get them thinking, get them to be more aware, and to connect with other theater artists in the region. So how do you become a respondent? Well, you're doing the first step. You're taking this training. We also, as I've mentioned, asked all of our respondents to take the anti-bias training, which is a video series that is located on our website, and it will take you about an hour to accomplish. Once you have viewed those videos and understand the contents, please contact your region chair through the form that is also available and let them know you've completed the last part of the training. So as a respondent, what's the life cycle? What do you have to do during the response? In this section, we are going to cover how you get assigned to a show, how you connect with the production team, what you can expect on location, and then what is expected after your response. Once you've completed your training and the anti-bias video series, then you will be added to the respondent list. This is a list that all of the state chairs keep, knowing who is active in the response process. Respondents come primarily from other colleges or universities, and we in Region 3 like to follow the good neighbor policy. That's our nice way of saying that if you as a school ask for 3 responses, we need you to submit 3 respondents who can help respond to other work. That balances out the workload, so we're not relying on the same troopers to go and respond to shows in their region. It's also good for students to get other perspectives instead of having the same respondent for an entire season. Once you've been added to the state chair's list, you're going to start getting emails. These emails will include a list of shows who have requested a response. The information provided in the email will include title of show and the dates it is performing, the name of the school, and contact information. Once you get those emails and you see the dates of production, you're going to respond to your state chair to express your availability and interest. State chairs try to assign respondents who are geographically close. One, this keeps our costs down at the budget level. That's not always possible because our first mission is to connect the right respondent to the show. So it may require an overnight. We'll talk about those details in just a minute. Once you have volunteered for a show and the state chair has sent a confirmation email saying that you have been matched with that production, you or the host school will reach out to confirm details. These details include which night you're going to see the show and a pre-show meal. In our region, as well as across the country, it is expected that the host school will host a meal prior to the performance. Schools will provide 2 tickets for each respondent, but if you are bringing a guest, please be aware that you are responsible for the meal of that guest. The host school will only pay for your meal and lodging. Travel costs can be reimbursed by submitting your mileage through the response form. Mileage is reimbursed currently at 33 cents a mile. So once you have connected with the production team and decided which performance you're going to see, you're going to meet probably the director for a pre-show meal. This meal allows you to get to know the process of the show. You can talk to the director about challenges that they may have faced or specific learning objectives that they were trying to accomplish through the rehearsal process. It will also give you context for framing your response. You'll find out if there's a cast of final seniors or first-year freshmen. Once that meal is over, you're going to head to the theater and pick up your ticket. As you walk into the space, take note, because part of the front of house experience can be part of your response. How did the ushers greet you? When you walked into the space, what was the tone set for the production? You can comment on the lighting, the feeling that you had as you sat in the seat looking at the stage. You can even review the program and the director's notes. If there's bios included in the program, take a look and try to get to know the cast a bit before you see the show. Pay attention to pre-show music or any movement that might be on stage. A general audience member may disregard these elements, but these elements, most of the time, have been carefully planned to create the theatrical experience that you are responding to. And then the show starts. The lights go down, or whatever happens at the beginning, and you start to take notes. I like to bring a small notebook, but I also write all over my program. If they have not provided you with a hard copy program, try to review the digital copy and write down the name of cast members or notations of production team members and cast members so that you can connect your comments to the right individual in the role. If you have the foresight, ask for a copy of the digital program beforehand or ask for a hard copy to be waiting for you at the box office. Most schools, in anticipation of their respondent coming to the theater, will sit the respondent in an area that will not be surrounded by people. If the house is sold out, that may not be an option, but it is nice to have a seat on either side of you in order to get comfortable and take your notes. So the lights go up, you are watching the show, you're taking notes on every element, not disregarding design, run crew, and stage management cues, all the elements that we know go into a production. It's easy to focus on performances, but take special care to notice the elements of design, of lighting, costumes, sound, makeup and hair, properties, anything that is in addition to the actual performances you see on stage. Once the show is over, you will need to wait 5 or 10 minutes before the cast gets out of costume and the crew puts the show back in place, ready for the next performance. The actual response may not be in the theater. It might be in an adjoining classroom or backstage space. But take this time, the 5 or 10 minutes, to review your notes. Make sure you know how you're going to present your response, whether you want to go by category, mentioning design elements or the performances or the front of house, back of house, or if you want to go chronologically through the show. I like to guide my responses from when I enter the theater and chronologically throughout my experience. Put your response in context. Think of it as an extension to teaching if you're a faculty member, and strictly keep your response as a response to the production. We don't want to redirect the show, and we don't want to talk about choices we would have made. We are there to respond to the choices that were made, what we saw, and what we heard. And don't forget that you're not just representing yourself and your institution, but you're also representing Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival program. You can start with an introduction of yourself. Feel free to share your pronouns. And if the cast size allows, I often like to ask the students and the crew, as well as any faculty representatives, to introduce themselves and what role they played in the production. As we know, people can look very different from stage to a chair sitting in front of you once they have their makeup and costumes removed. When I introduce myself, I share my pronouns as well as the institution I'm representing. And then I also talk a little bit about the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival experience. I make sure to share the dates of the next festival. I talk about the different opportunities only briefly, just so that they know that there's more activities and events than just performance-oriented programs. As the conversation goes along, you might find opportunities to bring up the fact that Design Storm, for those inspiring designers, is an excellent way to introduce or to sharpen skills that students may already have to the design process. If you're watching a musical, make sure to include information about the musical theater intensive. If you are talking to a group primarily of performers, Irene Ryan's isn't the only element that they might be interested in. There's auditions for the 10-minute plays, as well as the devised theater program. But as I move into responding to the work, it's important to make it a conversation. You don't have to be, and maybe shouldn't be, the only one talking. Part of learning is articulating what you've done. And that's what we want the students to do, to talk about their process, to talk about their objectives, and to talk about how they feel the evening went. Starting those conversations can also put the response into context. You'll get great information if you listen to what they're saying. It will help you guide how to move forward in your response. So how do we manage those conversations? With professionalism, with compassion, and honesty. Remember that you are responding. You're not a critic. You're not a judge. So you can talk about what pulled you into the show and what drew you out. This is a good way to talk about what worked and what didn't without saying, wow, that did not work. Make sure no matter how you format your response, chronologically or by element, that you're not glossing over or skipping elements that you may not feel well versed in. I myself am a director and an actor. I know about lighting and design of sets and props and makeup and costumes because I have taught Introduction to Theater for many, many years. But I would never dream of teaching a class in one of those elements. But I can still speak to the tone and theme and how those elements supported the overall production. I can also talk about a missed cue and how it drew me out of the show. Or I might have a question as to why a daylight scene was so dark. And while we want you to respond to every element of the show, we don't want any specific student or individual to be criticized independently. Ask questions of something that might be unclear instead of making a negative comment about something that didn't work. It's more important to get the student talking about why they made the choice rather than telling them that the choice was not a good one. We want you to avoid promoting yourself, your institution, or a product you might be affiliated with. I come from a 2-year college, and it's not helpful when our respondents come from a 4-year institution hoping to gain recruitment and transfer students. I'm not going to say our students don't ask for more information after a response. That is absolutely fine. But the response is not the place to sell your institution or program. You know you're getting into dangerous territory when you want to start talking about the show you directed or when you saw it in New York or London or Kalamazoo. We also don't want you to give the impression that you're tired of a production. Yes, many of us have seen Romeo and Juliet or Our Town many times, but the show is done many times because it's good. We need to come fresh eyes and a fresh heart to that response. If you comment on how long you've known the show or how you feel about the show, that tends to overshadow your response. Try to avoid spending too much time on an element or on the performances. Try to give equal amounts of response to all elements. I personally like to highlight something from everybody's work. The casts may be large. That isn't always possible. But try to at least touch on each element. And finally, avoid using complicated language or jargon. Remember, you might be talking to freshman students, you might be talking to community volunteers, and you might be talking to 4-year seniors or grad students. But make sure your language is available and accessible to everybody. So we've spent a lot of times on what to avoid. What are some tips to make you successful at responding to the work? Phrases that I like to start with are things such as, I noticed, or tell me more about, or I'm curious about the choice to. These are conversation starters without judgment. That gets the students talking. If you find yourself struggling, go back to what drew you into the experience and what pulled you out. Again, this is an effective way to say what worked and what didn't. You can talk about the relationships between characters. For example, the relationship between your character and Emily's character was on a razor's edge. How did you develop that relationship? Or the energy or pacing of a scene. For example, I felt the energy drop in that scene. What was your experience? At the end of your response, make sure that you ask if there's any questions or if there's something that you haven't addressed that they worked hard on. Give them an opportunity to raise their hand and ask you about their work or a specific moment. Once the response is over and students and other participants have filed out of the space, you're going to meet with the director one final time. This conversation is to determine Irene Ryan nominations. There are consistent questions about how these decisions are made. For associate productions, the director will select one nominee and the respondent will select the other. It's important to remember that Irene Ryan nominations are based on the excellence of work. I have personally been asked by a director to nominate somebody because they hadn't been nominated before, or to nominate somebody else because the person I had thought to nominate already had a nomination that year. I politely and respectfully explain that these nominations are based on excellence, and the director has their option to nominate their selection. But it doesn't stop at Irene Ryan nominations. The respondent can also assign certificate of merits to any element of the production. In my own experience, I have given certificates of merit to excellent work that I saw in ensemble or backstage crews, stage management teams, a design element. When the costumes were fantastic, there was a certificate of merit. When the props showed incredible insight and historical research, certificate of merit. So if there's an element of the production that you would like to recognize, know that a certificate of merit is an excellent option. These are distributed at festival. If the director disagrees with your selection of an Irene Ryan nomination, it's good to remind them that there are so many other opportunities at the festival for performers or designers to participate. The Aspire Arts Leadership Program is an opportunity for artistic and administrative student leaders of various identities and historically underrepresented groups to engage in activities that further leadership skills. Our dramaturgy program explores and celebrates the research and innovations that student artists bring to this essential aspect of theater making. The National Playwriting Program, also known as NPP, provides students an opportunity to submit their work for consideration and production at festival. The Devised Theater Showcase allows students to collaborate with a professional guest artist to create a show during festival, or teams can bring a devised and rehearsed piece developed from a previously available prompt. Design, Technology, and Management, also known as DTM, is for designers, technicians, artisans, and stage managers to be involved at the regional festival through design, technology, and management. Students can bring their design exhibits from the previous year, or they can participate in Design Storm and create a design during festival, or the Stage Management Intensive, which allows stage managers to support the productions developed during festival. Directing opportunities allow students to participate by directing submitted scripts from the NPP program. Students will audition, rehearse, and watch the performances by the end of the festival week. Most folks know about the Irene Ryan Acting Scholarship opportunity, but students can also audition for the 10-minute plays. Or they can be involved in the Musical Theater Intensive, which is an in-person audition and performance opportunity structured similarly to the Irene Ryan Acting Scholarship. But finalists will participate in a showcase held at the end of the week. There are so many opportunities for students to participate in the festival, either as performers, designers, technicians. Make sure you have our KCACTF Region3.org website memorized so you can repeat it a few times for students who want more information. Within a week of seeing the show, we ask respondents to submit the reimbursement form. The respondent form includes your name and contact information, but keep that program handy because you're going to need some names of the performers that you're nominating for Irene Ryan's, as well as any designers or areas of certificate of merit. And remember, I mentioned that the response form is also where you're going to put your mileage. If you are owed mileage for travel, you can expect that check to be mailed to you within 2 to 4 weeks of your form submission. You have completed the basic training for responding in Region 3. Now don't forget to go and visit the anti-bias training video series and fill out the form for completion so that you can complete the entire training process and contact your state chair to let them know you're ready to respond. If you have any questions about this process, feel free to reach out to your state chair, or you can also always contact Missy, Kelli, or myself. I hope this training video was useful to you, and we look forward to seeing you at Festival.